I think it's about time that we showed some love to the thriller genre over here. These are a few of the thriller books that I have read and enjoyed. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. We've got some sci-fi thriller, some literary thriller, we've got some YA thriller, some courtroom stuff, some really dark stuff. So hopefully there'll be a handful of recommendations for any type of reader. Also, hi, I'm Natalie. I make bookish content weekly consisting of book recommendations, library hauls, reading challenges, wrap-ups, all that kind of thing. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, feel free to like and subscribe. I'd love to have you over here. I have an on and off relationship with thrillers. Sometimes I am really in the mood for something fast-paced to get me out of a reading slump. I still want suspense and that sense of unease, but I need a little bit more depth, and I would say that pretty much all of these deliver both of those things. They have the suspense element, but at the same time they still have a decent storyline and character depth. I'm really excited to talk through them all with you. We could call this a beginner's guide to thrillers, but some of them are quite dark. Take that with a pinch of salt. I think maybe what might be most helpful is if I go through this list in the order that I read them and what aspect from each book I took and searched for in the next one. Does that even make sense? The author that actually got me into thrillers, it's between two, but the first one I'm going to talk about is Lucinda Berry. I would say she is still kind of a popcorn thriller author, but her books definitely do have more depth than, say, a Frida McFadden book. No hate there. They're quick, easy to get through, and you're not really left pondering about them afterwards. I don't think that's an insult to say that. It serves a purpose. But Lucinda Berry's books, I feel, delve a little bit deeper than that. I actually started out not with The Perfect Child, but with Appetite for Innocence, which essentially follows a couple of girls who have been kidnapped and are held underground by a man who is obsessed with kind of purity. It's as gruesome and as dark as it sounds, to be honest, and that was my introduction into her writing, and I was hooked. Something interesting actually about Lucinda Berry, if you didn't already know, she used to be a clinical psychologist, a child psychologist. I feel like her books are written with purpose and feel informed, especially on the psychological aspects. You really do get drawn into the character's world, and she kind of explores really taboo and dark situations in a really interesting and engaging way. So the next book I read from her was The Perfect Child. This one essentially is about a little girl that gets adopted into a family, and it's just an absolute nightmare from the get-go, to be honest. So Christopher and Hannah, he's a surgeon, she's a nurse, a little girl gets brought into A&E and she's absolutely filthy. She's just wearing a nappy, and I think she might have a collar around her neck, like really awful circumstances. So they take her home, adopt her, and things just get weird. I loved this, and there is a companion novel to this, which is a short novella, which gives you that little bit more that you might be itching for at the end of this, because I think it's a little bit of an ambiguous ending. Every parent's absolute nightmare, and that's why I think you should read it. The next book, which I think is quite a controversial book actually, is Saving Noah. This one is about a mum. Her son has been convicted as a paedophile. They live in a family of four. There's the mum, the dad, the teenage son, and a younger sister. The dad basically says, we are not having him anywhere near our family. He's dead to me, kind of thing. Whereas the mum is really battling with the awful things that her son has done, but at the same time, it is her son. It is a really difficult read with some really harrowing scenes in here. It doesn't go into depth into the abuse that he committed, but it does talk about it. So that's something to be aware of. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. Very well told. In typical Lucinda Berry style, there's a few twists in there, and one of them got me left, right and sinker. No, that's not the right phrase, is it? Hook and sinker. You know what I mean. After I delved into the dark psychological world of Lucinda Berry, I was itching for more. That then led me to Karin Slaughter. I picked up Pretty Girls by her. This is the first thriller I ever gave 5 stars. What I will say, obviously Karin Slaughter is an OG, gory, psychological thriller writer. Her books are massive. Her chapters are really long. But if you can get past that, you're in for such a great time. This book is so dark. It's very convoluted. There's lots of twists and turns. She follows a girl called Claire and her husband. Her younger sister went missing ages ago. Another girl disappears in very similar circumstances. And you're basically just working backwards and unraveling everything that's happened. I think it actually got me a little bit teary at some point. She doesn't just focus on the gore and the thriller aspect. She really does make her characters three-dimensional, and you actually do care about their thoughts and feelings and what happens to them. Again, by Karin Slaughter, The Good Daughter. This one, I would say I didn't enjoy as much as Pretty Girls. This all kicks off with two young girls who are home with their mum when they experience a violent home invasion. You're following the aftermath of that. And then again, when everything starts to converge, it's very interesting, a very good time, and highly recommend. If you do struggle with longer thrillers, with longer chapters, I would recommend reading it in tandem with the audiobook. I think makes it a little bit more digestible. I think that's what I did with the Good Daughter. I think I went down a little bit of a kidnapping rabbit hole, which does sound quite strange, but if you're a thriller reader or a horror reader, I'm sure you'll understand, because those were the themes in Appetite for Innocence, Pretty Girls, kind of in The Good Daughter. Then I picked up Still Missing by Chevy Stevens. This again is an OG. I don't even know when this was published, years ago. The villain genuinely made me feel sick. And it's not because the story is particularly grotesque. It's just that he made my skin crawl. She's basically recounting her kidnapping to her psychologist, but you are her psychologist, so she's talking directly to you. I just thought this was absolutely fantastic. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. It's just so creepy and claustrophobic. Absolute nightmare. It's fantastic. I've read 2 books by Wilding. The first one was this one, and the second one was The Passenger, which I didn't love. Or the last one, I think it's called in the States. I'm going to try and be as vague as possible about this because I think it's the best way to experience this. First of all, it's only short and so are the chapters. It is so propulsive, you won't be able to put it down because you just need to find out what on earth is going to happen to this woman who lives on a farm with a man. He calls her Jane, but that's not her name. It's not her name. That's not her name. And her husband records every movement of her day. Very dark, very claustrophobic, very well written. Yeah. Highly recommend. Oh, it's called The Last Thing to Burn, by the way. John Mars, he tends to write in 2 different categories when it comes to thrillers. He has his psychological thrillers, and then he has his more sci-fi speculative leaning thrillers like The One or The Passengers you might have read. I read The One, I enjoyed it, it was a good time, but I preferred this one, which is What Lies Beneath. So this one follows Maggie and Nina. Maggie is Nina's mum, and Nina keeps her chained up in the attic, and you are very much trying to work out who the villain is throughout this entire story. I thought the concept was really interesting, it's well written, and it slowly peels back the layers like an onion. The ending is absolutely wild. One thriller in particular that really does stand out to me is Next of Kin by Kia Abdullah. A woman is basically tasked with taking her nephew to nursery. He never makes it there. She finally remembers and runs down to the car park, and it's just absolutely horrendous. Trust me, that first bit had me gasping. What follows is many twists that I absolutely did not see coming and really engaging courtroom scenes. I do love a well-written court thriller. Kia Abdullah did this really well. If you are just starting to pick up thrillers and you don't want to go too dark, but you still want something with a bit of grit, Tiffany D. Jackson is your girl. I love her books. They are YA, but I think they're written in a way that is accessible to all audiences and that people of any age would enjoy her books. They're so powerfully written, covering such important topics. This follows a young girl who is groomed by an adult pop star singer and her experiences as she goes through the music industry. Although, yes, it does follow a thriller thread because in the first couple of chapters, she wakes up with blood on her hands and zero memory of what's happened. And it's one of those ones where it's kind of working backwards. And although that's still there and still relevant, the journey is just as important as the end result and finding out what happens. I absolutely love this. It explores such important themes. And yeah, highly recommend. Monday's Not Coming, again, is a really propulsive read. It's about a young girl whose best friend goes missing. And she's the only one that really notices or seems to care. And this addresses addresses issues of gentrification, systemic racism, and just what life in general can be like for a young black girl. So if you love a bit of sci-fi, but you would rather it be a thriller, then Dark Matter by Blake Crouch might scratch that itch for you. I think looking back, you can definitely tell that it's been written by a man. But when I was reading it, and even shortly afterwards, I absolutely loved it. The concept is so interesting. I love it when an author explores like alternate universes or dimensions and things like that, and that's exactly what this does. A man wakes up and he's in his house, but it's not really his life or his wife or his child. I think he's trying to work out how to get back to the dimension that he does really live in. It's just really sciencey, but not in a boring way. And some of the worlds that he travels to are like apocalyptic, you know, riddled with disease, or seemingly as though everything is normal, but there's just very minor differences which he can tell, which just doesn't feel quite right. And I just love that. I know it's been done so many times before, but I think this one does it so well. I would highly recommend this next rec. It's very much character focused, and it was really big over on BookTok for a while, and that's Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. I absolutely love Sally as a character. Sally's dad told her that when he dies, he wants her to put him out with the rubbish, and that's exactly what she does. And then she gets in trouble for that. You can't just dispose of a body when someone dies. You know, there's protocols to follow, right? Because this happens, she then starts getting unwarranted attention, which leads back to areas of her life that she's repressed. Things start coming back to her, and you start discovering why she is the way she is and the horrendous things that have happened to her in her past. So I think Sally's quirky personality balances out all of the darker elements and just made it feel fresh and believable. I loved this book. So yeah, definitely give this a go if you haven't tried it yet. And the final book on this list, which is one of my absolute favourites, and I think it straddles the line of horror and thriller very closely. I was surprised to see that it was a thriller. In my mind, it is a horror, and that's The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This book threw me through a loop. I think I literally read it in a day. I could not put it down. You're following the perspective of Ted, his younger daughter Lauren, and his cat Olivia. And yes, the cat has a perspective. When you actually get to the bottom of what's going on, it really did blow my mind. It's so cleverly done. It's one of those books that you want to read back over to see if there was any way that you could have picked it up the first time round. It's really hard to talk about this book without giving any spoilers, which obviously I won't do, so I'll try and keep it as vague as possible. And when everything becomes apparent, hopefully it will blow your mind as well. Don't mind being confused right until the very end, then you are going to have the best time with this. Well, I hope you do anyway. If you end up picking any of those up, I hope you enjoy them. Don't forget to let me know what you think. If you have read any of them, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, because I'd love to have you over here. Until next time, I'll see you again in another one soon. Bye.